So I'm joining you from work today. And, if you haven't seen me before, I work licensed acupuncturist. So that's my day in and day out. So anyway, I wanted to talk about Dr. Bowtie today. So I'm calling him Dr. Bowtie. This guy's name is Dr. Peter Hotez, and he is the replacement for Tony the Rat, Fauci. So interesting character, See now, I think we're getting into this phase where, as deep state as the globalists want to, try to pull off some crazy shit in their desperation, they're going to start rolling out, protected minority groups for these agendas, not exclusively, but you know, things like a woman president or a gay president or, black officials, Hispanic officials, stuff like it's like these incompetent psychopaths and then they're proto psychopaths who they've trained, who the system is trained to have psychopathic behaviors. They're doing this big bluff and to scare the shit out of us. They're acting like they're gonna fight, Russia and China on two fronts, and it's like that's the most ridiculous bullshit ever. It's like our military, our economy, um, our population is just so broken. It's like never gonna happen, never gonna happen. Instant disaster. But it's great. It's great press to titillate people because people don't know it, but they've been conditioned by church, by television, to absolutely love being afraid because it makes them feel like they're doing something and it makes them feel productive. And it makes people feel heroic. They think that they're fighting the legions of Satan, and people can find Satan behind every blade of grass. So, for these, if not to pull this shit off, at least to promote it so they don't get criticized. They're using people from minority groups, okay? So like I said, possible woman president, Kamala Harris, or a gay president, Buttigieg, who's a total deep state insider. That kind of thing. Right now, my point with the bluff of the two front war, you got a black Secretary of Defense, so it's like no one will criticize him because it's like, well, he must be doing the right thing because he's black and he's so much better. They're just so much better than white people. It's kind of nonsense would be implied with here. So anyway, you've got Fauci's replacement at was that NIH. Um, he's Hispanic, so this guy Peter Hotez. He's a pediatrician. He is a tropical disease specialist too. So basically, and he owes all of his success promotions to his relationships with Dr. Fauci and the Clinton Foundation, personal relationship with Bill Clinton. And this is a fascinating and disturbing phenomenon when the reincarnated Third Reich, which, it reincarnated right when World War II ended, it has co-opted, it has sponsored and co-opted and advanced, minority groups, Hispanic, blacks. It has advanced them and sponsored them in their educations and their careers. So it's like this guy's a tropical disease specialist and he's been working with CDC, NIH, Clinton Foundation to give needlecraft, experimental needlecraft to people in tropical third world environments here. So we're talking Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia kind of thing. So, it's sad. This guy is of some sort of Latin American descent. Didn't look that up. He's from Houston. Good chance he's Mexican, but who knows? Um, so he's basically helping to do, live needlecraft studies for years on people who are just like his family. But, of course, he's part of the intellectual aristocracy, so he's different. He's not a useless eater like them, right? So, and when you look at this guy, it's like, you might even call this like the revenge of the nerds, you know what I mean? So I'm not putting people down for being nerds. I consider myself a nerd. I'm sitting here talking to you about astrology, history, runes, all this stuff. But I'm not an angry, passive aggressive nerd that's looking to get revenge. I'll tell you to fuck off if I don't like you. You know what I mean? You cross my personal boundaries, you might have me to deal with in a physical way. So yeah, I'm not. It's like, yeah, I'm a nerd, but I consider myself. But I'm not an angry passive aggressive nerd who's like looking to get revenge. I'm plenty angry, which many of you've seen, but I'm not passive aggressive. So basically, this guy, he's to me, what did it for me was he's been for a few years, well, since the whole scamdemic started, he's been vocal and news outlets on social media saying that scientists should have hate crimes prevention and hate crimes protection. I meant protection, not prevention. Scientists should have hate crimes protection. So because unhinged people, the truth movement is full of unhinged people, and then there were small business owners, working class people who get labeled as far right, of course, who were fucking livid when all the lockdowns and mandates started coming down, and these intellectual aristocrat nerds were saying that you know you must all get these shots, and then Bill Gates was like, well, too bad, you won't have a choice. So people got pretty unhinged about all that, so they started making idle threats to scientists who were pushing this stuff, doctors who were pushing this stuff. So he came out and he was like, scientists should have hate crime protection. The cool thing is that actually there were actually people from LGB, I can't remember, TQXYZ, advocacy organizations, and even advocacy organizations for ethnic racial minorities. People from the organizations came forth and they said, no, scientists are not protected by hate crime laws because it's not it's a career, it's not an identity, it's not an unchangeable identity feature. I think hate crime laws are ridiculous. It's like, violent crimes are hateful, done. They set up this whole like George Orwell Animal Farm thing where it's like all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. So yeah, I'm not a fan. But anyway, yeah. So what this guy's doing is, he's a hateful, passive aggressive nerd who wants revenge, and he thinks he's superior. And so he's trying to use hate crimes laws to hide behind because his side doesn't have an argument that holds water. They were like, just get your one needle craft, and you won't get the Wuhan cooties, and people with you know 7 boosts are still getting it. So yeah, their argument doesn't hold water. So he needs to hide behind hate crimes laws, and he also represents an interesting phenomenon. So a lot of people get bullied without provocation. And it's inexcusable. Nobody should do that. People who bully, they've been bullied and they're rolling the shit downhill. But that is the measure of this guy's character. I mean, I got nothing against, someone wearing a bow tie, but it seems like it's his thing. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes when they don't have anything remarkable in their character or personality, they have to wear something that just draws people's attention to it so that they'll ask them about it and be like, "Oh, nice bow tie. How long have you been wearing bow ties?" It's like these people couldn't start a conversation to save their lives, so it's like the bow tie is what makes him the cool guy. That's the read I get off this guy. And when you look at this guy, you look into his eyes. He's got cold, dead eyes. Even when he smiles, and it's like could be psychopath material. We gotta somebody who's trying to duck and dodge behind hate crimes laws because he's a scientist who wants to impose his will on other people. He's probably a psychopath. Scientific community's full of them. So, very interesting. So he's basically this guy's definitely been bullied. I've been bullied at times when I was younger, so it's like, yeah, get it. But what he's doing is he's rolling the shit downhill. He's been bullied, so he's using his self-proclaimed intellectual superiority and the titles and influence he's been able to ass kiss his way to bully other people. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get back at those mean athletes for giving me wedgies. I'm gonna make them get needlecraft and make them get boosted a million times." So that's the way I read this guy. Um, and so like I said, bullying's inexcusable, but sometimes it's very understandable. So sometimes you get, this starts off in like adolescence where kids are nerds, and like I said, I've been a nerd my whole life. I get it. But kids are nerds, and they've been raised by at least one parent who's also a nerd, but it's a nerd with like an idea of their own superiority and who's all, they get resentful at people who have more confidence than them, might be better looking. Stuff like that might be more athletic. So the nerd parent will teach the nerd child that they're superior. And they teach them how to mouth off. Now, when somebody that's a useful skill, if you know how to do it right, when somebody's trying to rattle you verbally or just, be an asshole, if you're sharp, you can shut them down. You can basically, it's total metal element energy. You can cut through their train of thought and just shut them down. You can basically up the ante on what they're saying to you. Now, this is useful too if you have the physical sort of presence and prowess where they're not going to try anything physical with you. It's a great combination. Okay? So, sharp tongue can be a loose, sharp tongue can be very useful. But getting back to this point, so it's like the nerd child, like raised by one or two nerd parents who teaches them to be superior and basically teaches them to be smartasses and teaches them to feel that they're entitled to be smartasses. They can often teach the child to be arrogant, pompous and condescending. And this gets kids' asses kicked, okay? So it's not excusable, but there are a lot of situations where the bully would leave the nerdy kid alone if the nerdy kid would just shut his mouth and not act superior and condescending. So this is a real factor here with bullying. It's like nobody should be bullied, but there are a lot of people they don't know how to shut their mouths. They don't know how to fly under the fucking radar. It's like flying under the radar is not about never speaking up. It's not about being a wallflower and being invisible. It's just about not In this case, not being condescending, not being superior, not being an arrogant little shit. That gets a lot of nerdy kids' asses kicked, okay? So, it's like I used to help kids out when I was that age, especially like high school age who were, getting their asses kicked unjustly. But for the ones who were like arrogant, passive aggressive, superior, um, condescending nerds, I just let it happen because it's like, well, you need to learn to control your mouth. Maybe you can forego, your ability to feel superior in order to not get people fucking with you. Flying under the radar takes a lot of different forms. It can just be, another form of it is when you're dealing with just pain in the ass authority figures who are going to come down on you for, not being a conformist. It's like you can hide your nonconformity if you know what you're doing. But in this case, it's more about the kid who's superior, arrogant, condescending and all that stuff. He gets his ass kicked. So I think this is Dr. Peter Hotez all the way. That was probably Bill Clinton all the way too. Dr. Fauci, yep. Um, I can pretty much guarantee you. So, in bureaucracies, and it's always been like this. There's like a nerd mafia. So again, I'm not putting nerds down. I consider myself one. I don't try to get revenge on things that happened in childhood by being condescending and arrogant and passive aggressive. So yeah, this guy's got passive aggressive written all over him. Um, I think he's going to be a disaster. So I don't think he's going to be like some new and improved, Dr. Tony the Rat Fauci. I think the public is gonna find him more obnoxious, more condescending, and just more just sort of repulsive. So I think he's gonna be a bigger disaster than Dr. Fauci. Now, good thing too, he's from the baby boom generation, and the baby boomers stepping in as the globalist players, it's really saving our asses because from their generation onward, we've been raised to just feel entitled to and expect instant gratification all the time. So the globalists now, they don't play the long game and they don't play the gradualism. They just try to get everything they want all at once. So reincarnation of the Third Reich. That's why Nazi Germany was toppled and destroyed because they tried to do everything too quickly. They weren't doing anything that, the British Empire, the American Empire, the Soviets, any of them hadn't done before. They just did it all too quickly and people saw them for what they were. So this is a real saving grace. So the baby boom, them taking the reins as the major globalist players, they're going to overreach too quickly because they're so accustomed to instant gratification and they're gonna they're gonna shoot a hole in their own boat. So that's pretty cool. So that's what I see expecting from Dr. Peter Hotez. Now he's gonna get his own little scamdemic, plandemic war to try to feel like a big hero in. So what I'm seeing is, I think it's like November 28th of this year, 2023. We're going to have in the sidereal visible sky astrology system, we're going to have a node change. Rahu and Ketu are going to change signs. Rahu and Pisces, Ketu and Virgo. And it's interesting because they were in these places during the 60s when a lot of the upheaval, cultural upheaval was taking on and CIA was rolling out, social movements. Well, they were co-opting organic social movements like the women's movement. They installed Gloria Steinem, who was a CIA officer. They co-opted the Black Panthers, made them even more violent, so that to discredit them. They took out a bunch of civil rights leaders. So it's like, and then you had the big flu in 1969. So Similar times. But the big thing, K2 going to Virgo. K2 is losses. K2 is liberation from this world. K2 can, deal with like hospitalizations and, sicknesses and illnesses and death. And Virgo is health, healthcare, healing, disease, medicines, poisons, all that stuff. So K2 coming to Virgo, it signals liberation from this world, death and losses from disease and from, according to Johns Hopkins, doctor prescribed care is the third leading cause of death in America. So, doctor prescribed care causing death. Needlecrafts and follow-up remedies. So, yeah, we're gonna see this. I think this is gonna be sort of the delayed onset factor, as the needlecraft altered the genetics, DNA. We're gonna see the manifestations. So, in was it February 2020 when the scamdemic was first rolling? K2 was in Mula. It's a lunar mansion in Sagittarius and Nakshatra. And and then in 2021 it progressed to Scorpio. So Scorpio, you've got sudden death, sudden hospitalization, but then you've got the scorpion sting. So, a hypodermic, a needle is like a scorpion sting. So the scorpion injected the venom 2021 into part of 2022. Then it moved on to Libra. It seemed like, we got a break from the whole thing. And it's like, oh, the the kung flu's gone. And then so people got these needle crafts, and it's like, well, I guess it wasn't as bad as we thought. And it's like, well, just wait. So yeah, November it transitions to 29 degrees. K2 transitions to 29 degrees Virgo. The genetic alterations are going to start kicking in. And then, so that sign change, K2 to Virgo is on November 28th. Well, if you go back a month, this is going to be October the 14th, 2023. You're going to have a solar eclipse conjunct Mercury at 26 degrees and change, almost 27 degrees Virgo. So then at K2, it's going to be New Year's Eve, 2023, December 31st, New Year's Eve. K2 is going to transit to that degree where the solar eclipse happened in October. So I think that's the solar eclipse. It basically laid a minefield. K2 comes there, it steps on the mine, and then ba-boom. So, landmines don't, they stay dormant until someone steps on them and triggers them. So, yeah, that's what I'm seeing for 2024 is you're going to see what they're going to say. They're going to say it's a new scamdemic, a new plandemic. It's going to be, they're probably going to say it's some new virus, but it's not some new virus. It's the genetic alterations kicking in. So coming back to the point, Dr. Bowtie, Peter Hotez, is going to be at the helm. He's going to make himself look like a ridiculous asshole. I think even the woke are going to get sick of his shit. So, stay tuned for that. But yeah, I mean, he looks like a hateful little man and a frightened little man. And frightened little men and women are dangerous. They do all the worst things in the world. On a personal level or even, on a grand scale. So, I think that's all the commentary I have for now. I don't have my, let me see. Yeah. I'll get back to you on the details of lunar mansions and all that stuff. I'm trying to think. 26 Virgo. No, wait. What is that? Oh, that's I think the fixed star spike is nearby. Might be Hosta. I have to check on that. Anyway, you'll be hearing more about that later on. 25 minutes. That's pretty good. All right. Have a nice one.